Hi, and welcome to our final webinar for 2024. A common thing I hear when I talk to customers is that they don't know what they don't know. And as such, we'll cover each topic from basics to advanced usage to make sure that you're all fully informed of each section. I also wanted to let you know that these webinars and other short informational videos are available in our Learning Centre. You can find this on our website by going to jim2.com.au, highlighting resources, and then clicking the Learning Centre. Finally, before we get started, I wanted to thank everyone that filled out the survey ahead of this webinar. It was great to see what our customer base shared as their favourite tips that they thought everyone should know. Now, I'd like to introduce Ian, our Head of Customer Services, who knows more about Jim2 than probably any human being. Welcome, Ian.
Oh, far too much credit. And you know what? Think about that. That's all I know about. That's my whole life, Ash.
Well, it is absolutely welcome.
I
Now,
think actually my place here today is simply to look like Santa Claus. I didn't have the rest of the outfit. I am appreciating your hat, though.
I feel like with us merged together, we make a fantastic Santa. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, as this is the end of year webinar, I thought I'd include a heartfelt thank you to all of our customers and wish you all a safe and Merry Christmas. Oh, and if you're looking for Ian and I in this picture, you can find us here.
Nice.
We got that Santa hat on you after all. And now on to the webinar. Well, we've had a lot of great webinars this year, so many that contain so much information that I thought it might be a good idea to use this webinar to do two things. Number one, take a look at a few key insights from the webinars from 2024, and number two, look at some good housekeeping practices to help us close out the year. I highly recommend either grabbing a paper and pen or opening a notepad on your computer to make notes of the tips that you'd like to look further into. We are going to cover a lot today, and I'm sure you'll either want to come back to this recording to check it out again or check out the original webinar that it was in for a more in-depth explanation. You might also want to look something up on Jim2 Help or even call our support team to learn a little bit more. So, with no further ado, let's start with February's webinar, which was all about quick tips, and here are a couple of our favourites. Number one, the auto-hiding scroll bars. If we click Jim2, go to User Preferences, and then go to Jim2 Scroll Bars, we can set the scroll bars to either auto-hide or have them as permanently solid. Nice, quick, easy one there. Ian.
Yes, Ashley.
Oh, I thought you'd take the next tip, mate.
Oh, I certainly will. Yes, of course. Using our quick create from emails. So when emails are coming into the system, and I hope all our attendees today are using Jim2 email. When they come into your inbox, or they're of course visible in any of our other folders where you might have tagged them, the ability to right-click on the email, use create, and then choose to create a job or a quote, etc. from it. Just saves you some time, automatically links the email to that object that you created and allows you to move forward. And I mean, that's the big benefit of Jim2 email, being able to connect all the correspondence into the job, purchase order or quote that it refers to.
And of course, very easy to add attachments from the emails. So if we simply click and drag into the comments area, we'll actually get a pop-up asking us to add that document. And there are some features there that will allow you to add versions of documents if it detects that it's the same one being added multiple times. Moving on to March, we took a look over the general ledger and how things appear in there. I thought today it'd be good to perform a quick demonstration of how to find which GL group stock will appear in. So if I go to my stock list and we just pick a stock at random, we'll find the GL group up towards the top of the window. Now, this is going to determine which GL accounts the stock will have costs and purchases attributed to based on how it's used. So if we keep this in mind, GL Group Systems, we go to Tools, Setups, and in the Accounting section, go to Stock GL Groups. We can then find the GL group that we had in mind, Systems. If we click Edit for easier viewing, we can see when it's involved in a purchase, it will go to this GL account. When we're applying cost of sales, it'll go to this GL account. And when we're deriving income, it'll go to this GL account. And so, of course, these numbers refer to the GL groups. So if we go to GL General Ledger and look for 41080, Section 4, Section 1, 080, and it would appear in that one. Ian, is there other ways that things can appear in GL groups?
Well, I think one of the other ways in which you can identify Ash is actually going back again to your stock list, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
When you have a look at it, you'll actually see you have a column there called GL Group. And one of the great things is being able to drag that up and group the products. So now we look at this list in this way, we can easily see, show me the products or services that are reporting to the individual GL groups. And this is quite handy to locate. Now what this does is, of course, it tells you which group it refers to, but then, as you just showed us, being able to go to the general ledger and looking at the individual accounts themselves is the next stage of identification.
Fantastic. So we also have the ability to use linked accounts to show when income and costs are not coming from stock. So we can click Tools, go to Options, and then in the Accounts section, go to Linked Accounts. And in here, we can see things like non-stock-based freight or discounts from creditors or a whole host of other areas that can have their financials flow through to different accounts.
And this can be a little confusing to look at. Well, what we're really talking about, is you've quite well said there, it's not about the codes, the stock codes themselves. It's about the results of transactions that could involve stock codes. So, for example, in cost of sales, you can see in that section, we've got stock adjustments, and we talk about the stock adjustment account there and how it comes into play when you do certain things in Jim. Now, my recommendation here, by the way, is this is a little bit set and forget. I wouldn't be coming back and making changes to these linked accounts. If you do want to make changes after you've started trading the Jim2, then by all means, give us a quick call and we can just chat about if there's any implications with making that change. A little further down, you will see potentially accounts that don't refer to your own site, such as manufacturing or multi-currency type linking. So if you're not using multi-currency, if you're not using manufacturing, you might not have to populate those particular linked account areas. But again, quick call, we can clarify that for you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ian. Now, in May, we released Jim2 4.5. And so really, we were using the webinar to showcase a lot of the features that it contained. Some of our favorite features are multi-factor authentication. You can enable this by going to Options and Security underneath Company and checking the checkbox for Enable Multi-Factor Authentication. Once you've done this, you'll then be able to select an authentication vendor. Now I've just got some images here. Now these are different applications that you can use to use the multi-factor authentication from within Jim2. To set it up, you'll need to download one of these apps and then scan the QR code with the application that will appear when you're next logging in to Jim2. After that, each time you log in, you'll be presented with a MFA code after you've added in your password. It's worth highlighting that if you do enable this on the desktop, it will also be enabled on the mobile application as well. So just keep that in mind, but a great new security addition to Jim2. Next up, we have the OneDrive and SharePoint integration. I was asked last webinar if I could show a quick demo of what it looks like once it's set up. Because of the complexity of setting it up, I sort of need to go into a training database to show that off. But once we've got it set up, if we go to add a document or use documents in any way, we'll actually get these two options of OneDrive and SharePoint locations that you can then access from inside Jim2. These basically let you have documents linked to Jim2 without storing them directly in the database. So it can help reduce a bit of the size of your database, as well as allow you to access things from central shared locations. Again, if you want to know a little bit more about that, hit up our support and we'll be sure to help you out. Okay, back to our demo system. And we've got the new feature of the job importer. Now, we can show this off relatively easily. I do have a test here, which I can open up. Now, when we've got a spreadsheet that has information in it, we can use the job importer. I've saved a mapping here, which basically creates an association between the Jim2 field and the columns within the spreadsheet. Once we've got that association created, we can click Generate Preview, and it will then show us the jobs that will be created from this spreadsheet. You'll notice one of these is in red. That's indicating that there's an error somewhere in the information that's being presented in the spreadsheet that will need to be corrected before it can import. And I'll also point out that you don't actually need a lot of information to create a job. As you can see, this only has the customer name, and it's actually found the customer code associated with that, as well as the stock that we want to apply to those jobs. So this can be a great way to create a lot of jobs in a very short amount of time.
Can I
Next
jump
up,
in and just
please,
have a
yeah,
quick chat? For
absolutely.
people using the job importer, just be careful using it in that Ashley just talked about being able to bring in a small amount of information or a large amount. If you're bringing in a large amount, that may mean you create a lot of jobs that you may need to go back to and edit if you've brought them in with slightly incorrect information. So please be all over the testing of this before you actually bring in a very large number of jobs in one hit. As you all know, going back and editing jobs can be a bit painful because you need to change relevant fields in relevant jobs. So I would just do some testing, make sure you're absolutely happy with it before you start bringing in big loads of jobs this way. And I guess those jobs are going to come from outside sources rather than your own users who would be adding jobs on the fly. They'll be, typically we add jobs from emails or we add jobs as we go into Jim2 or Jim2 Mobile. But here we're saying there's a spreadsheet that has the information in it to create the jobs in the first place. So just be a little cautious. You can bring a lot of detail in. You want to make sure it's correct.
Fantastic, thank you, Ian. A very good warning. So next up, we've got the vendor stock feeds. So if we go to the e-business section and select import vendor stock prices, again, I have a spreadsheet ready to go. So if we open that up, again, I can select the mappings, again, the Jim2 fields versus the column names in the spreadsheet. We can also select a vendor that we're importing them for, and this will effectively update pricing based on the import schedule rules. Now, I won't go into the rules today. You are able to see a more in-depth explanation of this in the May webinar that can be found on jim2.com.au in the Learning Resources section. And I'll actually also mention there is 2 ways that this can be set up. This is the manual method. There is the option of a automated method. However, that does attract a connector fee, I think. So yeah, depending on how you'd like to have that set up, it can be a really great feature for helping stay on top of your vendor pricing. And finally, for the May webinar, we've got the new dashboard widgets. If I pop up our dashboard, we'll see that we've got a published list widget and a published list count widget. Now, both of these are really handy. You can get a lot of information in a lot of areas at once. We do have this available for jobs, quotes, projects, emails, and stock. And the benefit of this is not only can you see a lot of information in a small area, when you click on the published list count, for example, it'll actually take you to that list to see the contents that is making up that count. There is a video devoted to dashboards available, so if you'd like to know more about how to set these up, check that one out. It's, yeah, pretty useful. Okay. Now, in June, we wanted to make sure that your business was ready for some common end of financial year practices. So to do this, we're able to highlight some good housekeeping that every business would find helpful. So Ian, what were some of the tips that we went over?
Well, we were talking then about, I'm getting to the end of the year. I'm not talking about closing a financial year. I simply want to start tidying it so that it looks good for us to lead into the next financial year. And in that respect, we were talking about having unread emails being looked at and checking through our jobs, through our purchases quotes, reviewing them and making sure that they were handled. Now, a lot of our customers will be using the unread email elements as a bit of an escalation or a bit of a reminder. It's always important that unread means you haven't actioned it. So if you could just, whenever you're doing your end of year process, and hey, this could be end of this year, right? It doesn't have to be end of June. And it's about just making sure that you've got that nice and clean. And the only emails that are looking unread are the ones that you haven't actioned as yet. We speak about status due date, getting lists where we can actually say, show me when something needs to be actioned. And status due date is the ability to actually put a date against when a status should change. So status due dates can be set up from a display point of view on your jobs. You can see the field. You can nominate a due date for change when you want this, for example, to change from weight to another status. And if you don't change it from weight, it will show up with that ubiquitous salmony, orangey, tanny, I don't know what the color is, in your job list anyway. And keeping on top of due dates for jobs themselves is important. So that is not just the status due date, it's actually the job due date, and continually reviewing that you're keeping up with it. We all have overdue jobs. We have, and you know we have lots of overdue jobs. So the idea here is the idea is that we come back and look at those and work out the ones that are overdue and start working through how we can get them completed. We can create jobs lists for received POs. Now, this is important because receiving POs, of course, it usually indicates that you have received stock, but you haven't at this point received a tax invoice, or maybe there's some problem with the tax invoice. So the idea is you come back to these received PO lists, you work your way through them, obtain the tax invoices if that's what's required, make whatever changes need to be made. Now, keeping in mind that received POs, of course, don't let you change quantities, but do allow you to change vendors and pricing information. We can talk also about returns to vendors. And if we're going to have a list of that, we should also consider returns from customer. It's about completing them. So this was a tidy up exercise to say, if I have returns to vendor or even returns from customers that are not finished as yet, what do I need to do to get them finished? Again, finish is a posting type status. So no financial or inventory changes will occur until these go to finish. So they're always worth cleaning up. And why wait to the end of the year to do that? And you should also be having a look at what we call backfilling. Now, backfilling only occurs when you supply in advance. Now, customers who I've dealt with will know that I'm dead against it. That is, supply in advance, unless there's no other way to handle an issue. But backfilling is important. And whilst it can be an automated process in Jim, it's an option that you need to say you want automated. So if you haven't told it to automatically backfill, then you need to do this exercise yourself. And what we would be doing here is clicking on the stock tab, clicking on backfill, and a list of stock codes will appear that will require you to confirm that you would like them backfilled. Now, backfill itself is about applying a cost to those sales where you sold that product. If you'd like more information about backfill, Jim2 help, or just contact support. We'll give you the info you need.
Fantastic. Unfortunately, I can't show the backfill because I think our next topic of cyclical stock counts is stopping me from doing that currently.
So you were appreciating me focusing on backfill, weren't you, Ash? Because I knew you'd have a problem.
So Ian, what do we mean by a cyclical stock count?
Well, I think that a lot of customers can get caught up with the stock take and consider that it's an annual requirement. It isn't an annual requirement. It's a requirement to be done within the year. So what we're looking at here is, in fact, stock taking over the entire year, not just in one hit. So you use cyclical, I say cyclical. We're talking about picking areas of our business that we wish to count, include in a stock take session, get out of the way, and then allow us to do the next session maybe in another week or another couple of days. So it's about segregating or grouping our stock to make it manageable for count purposes. So here we talk about using things like non-report level groups to easily be able to bring up the products that we wish to stock take in this session and just deal with those. Not the whole company, not the whole warehouse. We're talking simply about the ones that you want to count today. And by doing that, by breaking up the stock into these cycles, into these groupings, you're going to be able to manage your stock take sessions and the possible stock adjustments far easier. Now, the horror that I'm probably hearing in the background there is, well, that means stock taking all the time. Yes, it does. It's an indication. Your stock take counts are an indication of how orderly the business is managing inventory. It helps keep control over the inventory to prevent losses, and equally, it maintains a standard. It helps you keep your inventory nice and clean.
Fantastic. So next up, we move over to July. Now, we presented some end of financial year insights or some reporting that we thought was particularly valuable. So the first that I'm going to demonstrate was in management reports, stock reports, and then stock value by GL group. Now, this is a great one for point in time reporting to show exactly how much value we have waiting in stock. But a common request that we also have is for different point in time reporting for the stock valuation. Now, it can be a little bit complex because the system is designed to provide live data. However, we do have a report that can show an estimate of value for your stock, and that is the stock value by GL group as of estimate. In this, we can choose a date that we'd like to create the valuation for and then generate it. And Jim2 is basically going to look at the state of things as they are set today at that point in time. By this, I mean that we expect sales to go through or we expect purchase orders to be completed. So this is an estimate only and should be treated as such, but may help some stock valuation questions if you need them for some time ago. And next up, I think we were going to show a little bit of business analysis, Ian.
So here we're talking about P&Ls and balance sheets and being able to bring it up against previous year performances. So in this respect, it's handy to be able to see what's happened in the previous year in the matching month, and then changes in those values. So your example there is great, Ash. We can see the very first line, income sales, $50 taken this year, and last year we took 0. So the change was 100% increase over last year. This structure of columns is great to utilize, and if last year is in fact the thing you want to compare to, keep in mind you can also compare it to budgets, which allows you to set up budgets within Jim2 and then compare your performance per month to those budgets.
We also have a year-to-date comparison as well, so that it would be looking at quarters. Is that right, Ian?
Yeah, you can see the periods listing at the top of the screen, and you just need to be a little careful with how you interpret them. But when we talk about the periods, and thank you for going to that space, we're talking about what period of time first and foremost. What do we want to look at? And then it's a case of playing with the display filtering to the right to just see the different ways in which things can be displayed for you. Just with that, I know a lot of our customers like to move this data. So Ash, if you could just right click on that space just there for me for a sec, you can see that you can export the grid, which simply means take the columns as they are and put them in a spreadsheet for me to look at outside of Jim2. And that's a handy trick for you to be able to utilize. Of course, you do have some basic reporting menu choices at the top of the screen as well that you can utilize if you wish. So they're all there and available for you to use.
Fantastic. Now, one of my favorite things about Jim2 is the ability to show which stock was not sold. I have this set for this current year, and when we run it, we'll actually get a list of all the stock that had not moved in this period of time. By moved, of course, I mean that it was not sold to a customer. Now, what can we do with this information? Well, we can actually easily add this to a promotion via importing from a list. So if we go to this promotion that I've got pre-prepared, click import, we can actually select a stock list of date not sold and then choose to import the stock in that list. Now, this can be a really great way to easily set up some discounts and well, a promotion for anything that hadn't moved as we may have expected. So just a fantastic feature there. Now, on to August, and we explored the ABA files. Now, there are a few elements required to set up ABA files, but it can be very handy once you have this done. To do this as a minimum, we'll need to set up our general ledger bank account with our bank information. Next, we'll need to make sure that we have a payment type set up. In Tools, Set Up, Payment Types, and ensure that we have one marked for electronic payments. And then with our creditors, we'll need to make sure that we have their bank information. Now, this is set up via contact types, and there is security to restrict the visibility of this information. Once we have these elements set up, we can create an ABA file by going to Accounts, Electronic Payments, and then selecting the bank account that'll perform the payments that we create, that'll be created when we do the ABA file. That file can then be imported into your bank to save you needing to manually create vendor payments. Now, this is a big topic, so be sure to check out the webinar from August if you'd like to learn more, but certainly can be a massive time saver. What did we look at in October, Ian?
Well, we started to talk documents, and you've briefly touched on a document through attachments this afternoon, sorry. But documents is a wonderful way for you to get electronic files into Jim2 for storage, or linked to Jim2 if you want to save a bit of space. Once a document is available in Jim, we can then relate that to the different objects of Jim2, such as our jobs, even stock adjustments, purchase orders, quotes, etc. Card files is a great place that you might link documents to. And when we talked about documents, apart from the fact that there are so many different types, because essentially they're just electronic files, so they could be your simple PDF or spreadsheets, or they could be more like executable type files. What you get the benefit from here is being able to get to that document very quickly through the Jim2 object. So, for example, think of a credit approval for a customer. If you send out the credit approval or guarantor information, you can then associate that particular document with a given card file and be able to get to it quickly through the card file area. The fact that you can also keep notes against these documents, that you can email these documents directly to other parties, that you can have version control, that you can rename them, delete them, change the way they're applied. It's a very, very handy tool and keeps you and your team able to go to somewhere common to find them. Now, we did also talk about hidden versus not hidden documents. And what we were talking about there is really just about documents that you share with the team, such as leave forms. Nice. Or when we talk about hidden documents, we're really more like keeping a document such as an invoice for a given customer's sale. A hidden document, it isn't hidden so much as you can't see it. You'll just see it with a slightly lighter font in a list of documents, and it'll indicate it's not something that you typically share.
The general separation there is customer specific document would be hidden, company wide document would not be hidden. Is that the
I think
idea there?
that's a good picture. And when I said leave forms for company wide, I was trying to give an example of something that you might use commonly with your employment sources. When you're talking about hidden documents, just please understand it's not a security issue. It's just trying to indicate it's probably more applicable to one thing in Jim than it is to all of you.
Fantastic. Now, I did give a quick demonstration there, but I will talk it through as well. If we highlight a number of files or documents, copy them, we can actually have them imported en masse with this button, Add Document from Clipboard. Through here, we can actually either set settings across all documents or choose documents individually and have the settings applied individually. And then when we click OK, they will be brought into Jim2. So that can be a real time saver as well. Okay. Now, before we get to the Q&A, we wanted to make sure that your Jim2 was as healthy as possible to close out the year. So we've put together a list of things to check to make sure that you're ready for the end of year calendar as well as the start of the new. So let's start with scheduling.
And what a favorite area of my interest is this, let me tell you, the ability to be able to say that people won't be here. And unavailability is particularly important for your team to know who they can call on during those times as we close towards the holiday period. And here we are able to see that Ash is away. There's no excuse for me bothering him. I know he's not around. And I certainly can't tell you people to contact Ash during that time. So unavailability is a very important part of scheduling. And if you're not utilizing it for that purpose, start doing it. Put the leave in there. You'll find it very, very handy.
Absolutely. Certainly helps with resource planning as well, making sure that there is availability for the jobs that are ongoing. Next up, I thought I'd give another demo for a Christmas card list or being able to send emails from a list. So we can see here that I've got a list of all the customers in this database. If we then go to select email from card file list and then click preview, we'll get a window that lets us choose an email template, in this case our Christmas card. We can change the test email address or the from address and then choose the different contacts that may be receiving it. We can also remove or well, actually simply just remove any that are not appropriate, and then click send to send an email to all the people in that list. And this obviously has wider implications than a simple Christmas card list. You can do this from most lists from within Jim, whether it be a job list or quote list or project list. You're able to contact each of the customers within that list via email. So pretty powerful feature there. Ian?
Pretty powerful feature there, Ash.
I was asking if you wanted to talk about good housekeeping for
Good
jobs.
housekeeping indeed. All right. So we spoke a little earlier about running some lists and keeping things tidy, closing jobs. The more that you can resolve your jobs, the better life is. So again, running lists of things like overdue and being able to get into them and clean them up. A lot of end of year type of billing processes take place right now. We certainly look at that through December very carefully. So we like the Christmas presents to go to our customers, that being invoices. So what we're doing is continually looking at whether our jobs can be what we call resolved, moved to finished status, and then invoiced or closed through docketing. That process of updating the due dates we spoke about, really important to keep that going, let everybody know when things need to be handled. We briefly touched before on the backfill elements, and I said that backfill was required after you supply in advance. So supply in advance being that you've sold a depleting stock before the actual receipt of that stock, or alternatively, you've sold something that was incorrect. You sold a red mug when it was actually a black mug. Now, supply in advance is a concern in terms of its financial reporting if it's not cleaned up. So that definitely needs to be taken care of. And the special stock that you have on hand definitely needs to be cared for. So if you ran a list of stock and you said the type is special, then you need to be able to look through those and see if you've got quantities of stock on hand that should have been sold, should have been dealt with. So a quick way to do that is to just look up the codes that are special type stock. So if we pop up to the stock, create a list, and we'll use the type of special and run it. And you'll see the columns coming up, and we'll just take that second code for a second and monitor special. And we can see there's 2 on hand and 2 committed. So they should be available and ready for sale when you're ready to invoice them. Of more concern would be quantity on hand that is positive, but no quantities committed. At that point, there's a bit of concern because that's indicating you've bought something as a special order, but you haven't actually got a sale for it. And that's something you'd need to look into.
Fantastic. Now, we also talked about the return to vendor and return from clients earlier, so very important to make sure that they're up to date as possible and finalized where possible. And finally, if we have a look at tools, options, and then the account section, just making sure that we've closed out any months that have been completed. This can help lock the information down so that you're not making any changes within those months and help keep those accounts as accurate as possible.
So please give a real thought to that come January. Obviously, over the holiday period, things can be delayed in terms of billing process, for example. And so you may be backdating some invoices for customers, for example, from January back into December. But still, at some stage, you will want to close that December month in a timely manner. So just have that in your list of things to consider.
Okay. Now, for this survey, we asked our customers to highlight some of their favorite tips that they thought everyone should know. I think we got some absolute crackers to share with you on their behalf. We did cover some of these as we were going on today's webinar, and we won't have time to go over all of the suggestions, but here are some of our favorites. So Melissa wanted us to highlight the availability percentage in the job list. So if we go to a job list, and I'm just trying to find that at the moment, if we right click and show auto pick stock, alternatively, we can tick the tick box at the bottom, we actually get an availability percentage that shows that how much stock we have on hand versus what is in the jobs. Now, Ian, I don't think this takes into account all of the jobs in the list, but it will show for individual jobs. Is that right?
Well, it's looking at all the stock unit quantities. So when we think of availability, think through the fact that you might have depleting and non-depleting stock. And as our users will be aware, the Jim2's non-depleting stock is always available. So it will feature as a percentage. So for example, those jobs that you're looking at there, Ash, that are saying 100%, if they had labor and they had non-depleting stock, then those quantities are always going to be available for sale and therefore show 100%. Where you're looking is for the things that have depleting or special stock in particular to see whether or not things have arrived and you can move forward with packing them. The other thing too is your own workflow. You need to consider whether the job is at a point where it's actually populated with all the stock. For example, you might put 3 lines of stock such as this, but you might be intending to put more stock on those jobs. So that being the case, the availability as it's currently sitting may not be the availability after you edit it and put more information in. For that reason, you want to be using status to try and indicate where you're up to in this job, particularly if you're trying to use availability for picking purposes.
Makes a lot of sense. Next up, we have the bank feed section. Now, this one can be a little involved, but I'll give a very quick demonstration. So if we select the account that we would like to use, we can then import a sheet, which I don't have in this location, my apologies, but it'll effectively allow you to match your bank transactions with your Jim2 transactions. Now, this can be a major help to your bank reconciliation process. Just making sure that we understand it will not replace the bank reconciliation process, it will merely assist it, but it can save a lot of time. We do have a video specifically on bank feeds, so be sure to check that out.
And if I can just add something here, Ash, we've been
Please.
getting some very good suggestions from people, particularly some of our long-term clients, in relation to how to continually improve this particular feature, things that we might be able to take advantage of and build into it. So please continue sending us that information. If you have a thought about what you would like bank feeds to produce for you, a different way for it to operate, just like any idea that you might have about Jim, you can either add it directly to Happen User Voice or email through to support. We'd like to hear what you have to say. And just to let you know, I had a very good conversation with one of our clients the other day, just talking about things to do with bank deposit sessions. And that sort of information, we can then come back to our dev team and start talking about what could we introduce with new features for this. So Happen User Voice, if you'd like more information on that, just give us a yell or send through an idea to support it Happen and we'll move it from there.
Fantastic. Now, we also had a question about bulk reconciliation of ePay in bank feeds. Now, I was also asked, could we make a video specifically on the bank rec process? And I think that that's worth mentioning that that's actually in the final stages of being created, because when we're talking about the ePay features, so electronic payment feature, those things will actually filter through into the bank feeds, which can then be used to assist the reconciliation process. Ian, I've probably oversimplified a bit there, but is that that's about the run of it, right?
It is, in a sense. If you were to right click in your space right now, you can see match with electronic payment sessions. And what we're suggesting there is that when you do a session, you have many payments included in the sessions. So, or you may have one, but you may equally have hundreds. And so what we're able to do here is to display those electronic payment sessions to show you the individual transactions which might match the payments that are here that have been made from your account. So I'm just talking creditors in this situation. So these are little things that we want to work through, and I think that links to what I was just saying about the information we receive from the customer in regard to bank deposits. It's the same concept. How are you people who use Jim2, who use bank feeds, what sort of features do you need to have for us to consider here, and what we might be able to assist you with?
Awesome. Okay, I think we're about time to do the Q&A. Just as a quick recap, today we covered a number of different tips and things. I think we've gone well past our normal half an hour, so we've absolutely jam-packed it for today. But yeah, let's throw open the Q&A and see what sort of questions are waiting for us. Okay. So Cameron asks, have there been any changes, improvements been made to MFA since its initial release? Not as yet, Cam, but we do have a number of suggestions which we are, constantly taking on board. So as Ian said about the bank feed section, user voice is able to, take suggestions for any part of Jim2 or its associated processes. So, we do have a number of suggestions to improve that, which we're looking at, but yeah, we're also always willing to take more.
Well, I would express there that we would be particularly interested in understanding MFA in relation to Jim2 Mobile, in terms of how customers would like MFA to work there. So again, if you've got suggestions, pass them on. We have some ideas of how we want to make it a little less onerous, but we're more than happy to hear from the client, from all our customers who use Jim2 Mobile. And it could be that for some of our users, it's difficult with MFA on Jim2 Mobile to the point where they're not using it as much as they'd like to. So we're happy to consider ideas and try and make something easier for you.
Absolutely. Also from Cam, do we have a job importer template CSV that we can share that has column headers that minimizes the effort to do the mapping? I'm sure that we could come up with something that has some general columns that might work in most situations. I'm not sure how we'd make that available. Certainly we could send something to yourself, Cam, but if other customers were also interested in that, maybe we'll make it a download as part of this recording or something, Ian.
Yeah, it's the difficulty is the source, isn't it? It's like, how do you get the detail in the first place for the mapping purposes, and what sort of details in each column. So saving the mapping with names in the process is something that we would encourage you to use, and you gave an example of that in your demonstration, Ash.
Yeah, I think that whatever works for you, and then saving that mapping from the sheet. So, the main things that you're going to want to include is identification of the customer, whether that be through a customer name, the card code directly, things like that. Whatever stock that you want included on the jobs, and then basically when you look at the mapping section at the top, if we recall, I might bring that up again. Basically, any of those fields are going to be available to import or populate as you go. So I'll just quickly bring that up again. So we can see the destination field names on the left here. Any of these fields are going to be able to be populated from the sheet if you have the column to map it to and from. So yeah, there's not really a template that exists at the moment, but certainly, really easy to use any sheet and then populate with the columns. Tripping over my words a little bit there, apologies. Okay, so can the manual vendor stock import feature be used to generate an XML that can be used by the plugin importer?
I think we're going to have a conversation with Cameron to clarify what he means by plugin importer there.
Yep,
so
agree.
Cameron, we might come to you directly on that particular request.
Yeah, good call. Is there a BCC option for the send email from list? So that would be for the sending out, say, my Christmas card list, for example. And I'm guessing that you mean that will people be able to see the different the other users from the list? So often in say for Outlook, for example, you'll see right at the top that all these people had the email sent to them. The short answer is I don't know. Ian, do you know how that works when we use it from the list?
Well, it's to deal with the individual email addresses. However, depending on how it's constructed, you could see multiple email addresses. So one of the great things here is that you should be doing some testing to see what the display will be when you create that particular list. If the idea is that you would like the BCC functionally, as in not just to hide things, but there's another reason why you want BCC, I'd really like to understand that and how you'd want that to apply. For example, should we have a list that is all BCC? Should we be allowed to allow individual contacts to be BCC and others not to be? So things like that, if we can get a little bit more information about it, we can then deal with whether we can bring that into play.
Fantastic questions,
Again,
Cam. Thank you.
just want to stipulate, test all this. So that's the idea. Let's use it with a small group of email addresses that are local to you and just see how the formatting comes out.
Next up, we have a question from Mike. Can we import quotes?
Yes, well, we can, just not as a system thing. So we can assist you with some scripting if that's what you would like. At the moment, importing quotes isn't part of System Jim, but we're happy to talk to you about an individual scripting that we could do to make that occur. Now, when we talk about this sort of thing, it's very much specific to the customer who's asking about it. So Mike might have a different requirement from Fred. So we need to talk about it individually, but yes, we could provide that feature.
Fantastic. Now, Jeffrey's asked, jobs have the function to show if payment has been made or still outstanding. Would Jim consider this for purchase orders as well? Now, I think that that's a fantastic idea, and certainly something that we'd love to see in the user voice section. Of course, the benefit of user voice is that other customers can vote on ideas, and the ones that receive the most votes sort of rise to the top and gain a little bit more attention. So yeah, it's something I'd love to see added in there.
Well, I can tell you that it is in there, and we would love votes on it. I particularly think that prepayments on purchase orders is a very important way for us to handle vendor management. And we have lots of customers who would like to be able to pay their vendor in advance of supply and have a clear record on that purchase order of that. So I'll vote for it.
Now, Melissa's asked, can we watch this again? There's so much, and she wants to hit pause as she works through some things. Absolutely, you can, Melissa. You'll receive a link to the recording, usually out same day as the webinar. And of course, we can always go. Actually, I'll let me grab a new tab here. If we go to jim2.com, we can highlight resources and go to the Learning Center. And this is where all of the recordings and different videos that we make live, basically, so that you can have a look through. And there's an absolute plethora of information on here these days. We've been doing these webinars for a couple of years now, and so they've really been building up, as well as some other short information videos like stock take and GST sessions and things like that. So be sure to check that out and see what you can learn. Okay, now Amanda's asked, when working from her laptop, she can't always access all functions in Jim as they're unable to fit in the smallest screen. Is there a better way to access all the functionality on a laptop? Amanda, I think this comes down to a couple of different things. Number one is the resolution of your screen, and number two is the text size that you've got Windows set to. Now, when we're using bigger resolutions, things will naturally seem smaller. And then when you are using bigger text sizes, that will change how text fits in to Jim2. So it may take a little bit of playing with to work that out. If you are having ongoing issues with that, however, by all means, give us a bell and our support team will help you out there.
There are a couple of tips here, though, Ash, for this. Amanda, you might want to consider closing your pane for your insights. So that would allow you potentially some more horizontal space there. And what we're saying there is we can see an email on Ash's screen there, and that's our insight pane. And then Ash is able to go down to the bottom right-hand corner and actually turn that off. So it gives you a bit more width for the general parts of Jim2. The other thing, depending on your issue here, could be to close the ribbon. And to close the ribbon, one of the ways you can do that is to use the arrow at the top of the screen, which gives you a little bit more vertical space. Now, to bring it back, you can simply double click on one of the tabs. So if we go over to email and give it a double click, it'll reopen that ribbon. So that might give you a little bit more room too.
Great tips. Thank you. I learned something. And now Mike's asked, is there a possibility to use multiple windows on multiple screens? And yes, absolutely there is, Mike. If we go to the Jim2 button, you can actually click New Jim2 Session. And this will allow you to open a new session of Jim2 that you can move independently to a new screen. I've just got that opening on my other screen at the moment, but I'll slide it over in a second so that you can see that I do in fact have 2 sessions of Jim2 open at the moment. Okay, what an absolute jam-packed webinar today. Thank you everyone for the questions and all of the feedback. We do have a survey that's really important to us that goes out with the recording link. So if you can fill in the survey and just let us know how you think the webinars are going and let us know the sorts of things that you'd like to see, that would be absolutely fantastic. For now, though, I think we've actually got to our time of the hour that we normally put aside. So again, thank you all. Have a safe and Merry Christmas, and we'll catch you in the new year.
Just before we go, Ashley, my thanks for a fabulous year of webinars. I enjoyed them immensely, even though it's the only time you and I talk. I also want to thank Joe and Glynis because of the work they do behind the scenes in preparing the displays and helping us work with you, that is our customers, and bringing them into this environment. We're going to do many, many more next year. It's a great hoot and we think our customers really like it. So thank you very much. Have a great Christmas and holiday period.
Thank you, everyone.